Have you ever wondered what a $25,000 to $30,000 dirt bike looks like? Because you're looking at one here. This is the Iron Horse, and I've got the Iron Horse's father here, Tyler. You want to say hi, Tyler?
Hey.
So Tyler runs the @enduro_builds page on Instagram, and this is his latest creation. It's the Iron Horse, and I'm giving this away to a lucky person in March, as many of you probably know. But we wanted to talk about what has happened with this bike and how it came about, and just a little bit of background behind it. And there's no better person than Tyler to explain all of this. So we're gonna take some time here and just go through the entire bike and explain most of the things that happened. But Tyler, just as an introduction, like where did this come from? Like, what was the idea?
So first of all, whenever I do a build, I like to have an objective, and the objective for this build was, one, to make the most unique bike I could possibly make, and we'll go through kind of what I did to accomplish that. The other objective, I wanted to make a dirt bike with kind of a rustic look, but still be a modern dirt bike. And then the last thing was kind of spend as much as we could on it. So.
Yeah, one of the problems that Tyler's done some amazing builds. A lot of you maybe followed his stuff. That he did a 150 project, which just like kind of took the world by storm, where he tried to make the lightest dirt bike he possibly could. And I feel like he kind of did a master's course for himself, which we still haven't done a podcast episode on, but a master's course in like how to shave weight off bikes. So it's very interesting. With this one, he wanted to make the most unique bike he could, but this is still a bike that you can actually ride in hard/soft enduro, because there's not a lot of like, obviously there's a lot of quote fluff on here, but then you put a lot of effort into like strengthening things and making sure like we had backup kick starts and we had protection in all the places, everything down from bar ends to, you know, like fork shoes and obviously skid plates and those types of things. So there's a lot of protection on here. Yes, this is a beautiful showpiece, but this is also a bike that can go out there and get dirty, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've heard from a lot of people that say, hey, if I won that, I'd be afraid to ride it. But honestly, it has some of the best protection parts that you can buy for it. It might look shiny.
The best protection. Like these are the best skids. Like I'm looking at this and I'm going, there aren't better protection parts. Yeah, you could cover some of these things more, you know, but other than that, like the things that you put on there,
it was built to handle pretty much anything. And I didn't specifically build this to be a hard enduro type bike. I built it to kind of be an all-arounder, just so it could do anything. You could certainly ride hard enduro with this, or you could, you know, take it out in the desert. It'd be a great desert bike. You can pretty much do anything with it. So
yeah, even if you wanted to do hard enduro, you'd probably change your pipe, or at least put a pipe guard on this. You know, which would be cool. The person who wins this, they may end up having a hard enduro pipe that they put on when they're bashing, and then put this back on when they want it to make it look pretty. This is probably my favorite part of the entire bike.
The thing, this pipe is made by a company called Moto.es, and they're out of Turkey, and it's a hand welded cone pipe out of stainless steel. So it might look, you know, really ornate and pretty, but it's pretty tough. It's stainless steel, so it's not gonna rust, you know, and it can probably take a pretty decent hit from what I hear, so.
Yeah, and one of the other problems that I think Tyler's run into, or at least just concerns with some of these like project bikes, is they're very expensive.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to kind of get your money back out of it. You buy a $10,000 dirt bike or whatever it is, $10,000, $11,000 dirt bike, and then you start dumping money into it, and it's hard to get your money back out, to find a buyer who's willing to do that. So on this project, Tyler came to me, he's like, what if we did this and we set a budget at first? And we said, yeah, we're comfortable with that. But as he got into it and started looking at some of the things, he's like, hey, what if we did this? What if we did this?
Yeah, we kind of blew past that budget pretty quick.
We did. But the nice part for both of us was, I was then able to offer something to you guys as a sweepstakes bike, and he was able to get a buyer on a bike where he knew he could get his money back. By the way, I still need to write you a check for it. You gotta come to my house. He gave me the bike and I still haven't written him a check for it. My checkbook's in my truck, and I have my truck at my... Anyway, so I digress. He has a buyer, I just haven't paid him for it yet. I'm good for it though. But that was a really cool thing with this project. So he got what he wanted out of it, I got what I wanted out of it, and now you're gonna get what you want out of it, which is a free bike, one of you. So let's just kind of go through. I'm gonna grab the camera and we're gonna get in tight here, and Tyler's gonna show us, because didn't you say just a second ago every single bolt?
there's not much on here that is stock. I mean, down to every single bolt on the bike, to the kickstand pad, to, I mean, the engine itself. It's no longer in its stock form. So
even foot peg pins and and motor mounts and bolts and everything.
Everything. I went through this top to bottom, and if there was something that I felt was a performance, enhancer, or made the bike look better, I swapped it out. So
awesome. Okay, we're gonna go front to back or back to front and look at this thing. All right, Tyler. Starting at the front, tell us what you know about the bike here.
All right, so let's start up here at the controls. We have a Mako 360 bar mount, which are awesome. We have ODI podium flight bars. All of this wiring I redid and reinforced with sheathing. It has a map switch here. We got P3 carbon fiber master cylinder guards, arc levers.
These are breakaway levers.
Yeah,
right?
These are breakaway levers. They're not the Memlon, but the aluminum. These are the Acerbis handguards, and typically you have to use the Acerbis bar mounts with them. I don't like bar mounts. I like to use the lever mounts. And there's a pretty trick part by a company called AKT Technologies that makes an adapter that allows you to run these Acerbis handguard mounts on the stock KTM lever mounts. This is a pretty cool throttle. It's made by a company called T-Rex Moto. It's a solid billet throttle. You've probably seen them on bikes like Cooper Abbott's and Cody Webb's. They run these on their Shercos, along with their low friction.
You can even see
throttle cable. Yeah,
inside
so you can visually see that. It looks like plastic. That's bulletproof glass. So this thing is solid. A lot of people look at it and say, oh, that's fragile, I wouldn't want to run that. This is solid billet aluminum and then bulletproof glass. The grip.
Bulletproof glass.
Yeah. So these bar ends are by a company called G-Rip. You can get those from Slavens Racing. Awesome.
They're threaded.
They're awesome.
Like, right?
They're threaded. I like these because it goes over the end of the bar and covers the entire thing. Most just sit on the surface. This covers, and actually you lose about an 1/8 of an inch or so of your bar, but they're awesome. And along the bars, we have the ARC rotating bar clamps. I like these. So if you get in a crash,
that is bad. I hadn't even seen those.
So. There's several companies that make them, but those are by far the best that I've found.
I love that. That's cool.
And then
there's so much to see. Like even so far, you've already hit on things that I didn't even notice, and I've had the bike here in the shop for a week.
There's just so much, and I'll probably forget things. So if people see something and reach out to you or reach out to me, I can tell them where to get it or what it is. Right here along the lines of making this bike unique, this here is the combo switch that's found on the new 2023 KTM XC and SX models. Some people like it, some people don't like it as much as the 2-button. I just used it in this case, 1, because it's unique and it's not found on the GasGases, and 2, because I wanted extra bar space. And by using that combo switch, I was able to put the map switch over here,
to not have it so cluttered.
Exactly. So using the Renthal, these are the sticky tacky grips. Because of the T-Rex throttle, I couldn't use the ODI lock-ons. They're working on a solution for that, so you can use ODI lock-ons with their throttle, but had to use glue-ons. So got those Renthal grips wire tied on there. As we move down, we got X-Trig triple clamps. The headlight here is the Acerbis VSL. There's not many light options for the GasGas models. And let me unbuckle this here and we can pop this off. I've got it all wired up here. not only did I reinforce the wiring, I waterproofed pretty much every connection on the bike.
Oh my gosh.
So this is, for the starter, is a waterproof connector. Rerouted the wiring, reinforced it in some of the spots where there's pinch points and high wear areas.
Like this right here.
Yeah, so
that's beautiful.
So that's just something I do with a lot of my builds, is just go through and take care of the wiring where I know there's issues. And,
which I don't do on mine.
So we'll put this back on. The graphics here, they turned out absolutely awesome. They're done by a company called Rev Designs, right there. And again, I was going for kind of a rustic look, with this being Project Iron Horse. I wanted a rustic look, and they absolutely nailed it. I love this gray. It's the Polysport Nardo gray plastics, and you can get them for a lot of bikes, all the KTM bikes at least. And
Iron Horse here, right?
Yeah. So super happy with how the graphics turned out. And then let's go on another big part of this build, and probably the most expensive part of the build, was the KYB suspension. And that was done by Moto Experts. Big thanks to Kevin at Moto Experts. He helped us out a lot with that, and it turned out absolutely awesome. So these forks are the stock forks that have the KYB conversion done to them. The shock, on the other hand, we'll just jump back here real quick. The shock is actually a KYB A-kit shock. That shock alone is like a $2,800 shock. So
this is one of those ones where we had to have a conversation. I remember you called me and said, hey, if I do this, we're going to blow the budget.
Well, we were planning on doing, yes, we were planning on doing the KYB conversion to the forks, but then we would have had, some sort of WP shock in the back. And, I asked you, hey, if you want to make this super unique and do KYB across the board, it's going to cost a lot of money. And, but we went ahead and did that. So, the suspension alone is just over $5,000.
And it's even got the X-Trig sag adjustment in here.
So that comes on that shock.
Okay,
okay. So that shock is how it comes. So they make this KYB A-kit shock for the KTM brand linkage bikes, and it comes with that adjuster. Just a beautiful looking shock. And then the forks, these were the stock forks, and so what they did was they actually Cerakoted the tubes to match the shock,
which is so cool.
Which turned out really good. And you can't really see it because as we go down, I have these full wrap guards. These are guards I like to use because you can see it covers the...
They're made by ProTech or no?
No, these ones aren't. I get these from Off Grid Syndicate up in Idaho. He sells these. You can't really see, but these are DLC coated lowers on the forks.
They look amazing.
Yeah, so nice and protected with those fork guards. So we move down, have the bulletproof designs, fork guard, lower fork guards.
The fork shoes.
Yeah, the fork lug guards. And then on this side, the matching disc guard with the kind of built-in.
What's the Technical Touch here? These are the...
So Technical Touch is the company that makes the KYB conversion kit.
Okay.
And so you have to have those fork lugs for the kit.
Interesting.
So they come as part of that fork
to go
conversion.
on the bottom of the fork. Okay.
So for wheels, have the Enduro Pro Series wheels. You can see here, running the Bridgestone X31, which is my new favorite tire. It's basically a better off-road version of the M59. Awesome tire. And there's moose balls, front and rear. We're running in this. Again, me and you are both tubeless guys, and we like to run tubeless, but wanted to do something different and have heard a lot of good things about the moose balls.
Yeah, it's an intriguing
and
setup.
So decided to put them in here, and then I actually want to test them out myself. So as we move back, the radiator guards here. Here in a little bit, I'll show you the deal with the radiators, because as you can see,
yeah, you replace radiators. These are the 23 XC radiators.
Yeah, we'll pull off the tank and I can show you what I did. But these are the radiators found on the new gen, and I'll show you why I use those here. Like I said, this pipe we talked about is from Moto.es. It's a handmade cone pipe made out of stainless steel from Turkey. And then, geez, there's just so much. We got the Trailtech fan. This is ready to go. I mean, if you win this bike, there's nothing you're going to need to do to it except just go ride it. Some people have said that they're just going to put it in their living room as kind of a trophy, but I added the kickstart. So, a lot of people like the kickstart, to have a backup kickstart. I do. Yes, I can live without it, but I figured, hey,
it's just an insurance piece.
Let's throw it on there. You have electric start. I've had a few rides where the kickstart saved the day, so I threw that on there. This is an S3 power valve adjuster. You don't have to typically adjust your power valve much, but this sure makes it a heck of a lot easier than having to have that special tool key. So
did you modify this so that
yes, I had to modify this skid plate. There's a few things to make
every skid plate comes up over the.
Typically it does. Typically it comes up to right here. But in order to be able to access that, I kind of removed a piece there. This is an SXS skid plate, the best skid plates there are in my opinion. Has the linkage guard. It's one piece, solid piece throughout. So awesome skid plate. Up here we have a cylinder saver. So if you did decide to run like a pipe guard, one it just protects that flange, but if you decide to run a pipe guard later, you're protected, with big hits on that.
Samco hose kit.
Hose kit, and that I had to do custom, and big thanks to Slavens Racing for helping me out with that, because we had to piece together some hoses using the new 23 radiators. Things didn't,
they didn't quite
fit. And this bike was a 2023 EX300, and so stock it had, the thermostat and everything.
And you removed that, it looks like.
I removed all that. So Hinson, clutch cover, those things are bulletproof. Billet aluminum, you're not breaking that. This bike has a decent amount of titanium on it. This is titanium, and these foot pegs are titanium.
Made by Scar.
By Scar Racing. These foot peg pins are made by FCP. They're oversized titanium foot peg pins.
They look
amazing. They're really cool looking.
You got purple on one side. These pins are like almost $100 each, right?
Yeah.
These are like what the race teams use, like with Supercross.
Yeah, a lot of them do. They're oversized, so you don't have any slop. Where the stock ones, you'll have a little bit of slop. They're a pain in the butt to install.
I was just doing these. Well, a different peg on another bike outside, and it fought me. So I can only imagine how hard that is to get in.
Yeah, but I mean, they look amazing. They're titanium. They're lightweight. Also from FCP, we have the engine mount brackets, which are aluminum, and typically those FCP mounts don't come in that color. They come in like a bronze color. But with this, I had so much brown already on the bike that I had to go with and kind of bring in some other colors. And so I had these custom anodized, that gunmetal gray, which I think turned out really cool. But along with that, it also comes with a titanium engine mount up here. And supposedly with those mounts and that titanium bolt, it's supposed to improve the handling of the bike. So kind of some trick pieces there. Anything you see in that gunmetal gray is just something I had custom anodized. So there are parts you can buy, but then I had them custom anodized by a company here. As we move back, these swing arm guards, these are awesome. They're made by a company called Crosslink Components. They're basically like skid plates for your swing arms. So, I mean, you can't really see, but they're close to the thickness of that SXS skid plate.
Yeah,
they're solid. And the coolest part about these is that not only are the most of the aftermarket swing arm guards out there really thin, but they mount with zip ties, and you're always losing them or breaking them. These are solid, and they mount using this bolt system. There's a bracket here that mounts to your chain adjuster bolt, and then you bolt on the swing arm guard. You do use a zip tie up here, but I mean, this thing is not going anywhere. I've been using them on my bikes, and they're awesome. We have, for the silencer, titanium 2.1 power core. That's a solid titanium. I went with it not only because it's titanium, you know, and lightweight, but I just like that blue color. I don't know what it is. I've always liked that blue. I think it works pretty well with this bike.
Yeah.
While we're down here, let's
obviously the disc guard here.
Yeah, bulletproof design. So kind of went throughout the major protection parts, went with bulletproof designs. They make some awesome stuff. The rotors are both Dirt Tricks rotors, and also the sprockets, we'll get over there in a second, but they're from Dirt Tricks. These are, again, the Hermosi A90 rim, the Enduro Pro Series. These wheels are awesome. They're built extra beefy for Enduro specifically. So beefy spokes, and then on the drive side over here, it has 2 bearings. So your bearings on your rear wheel are going to last longer, you know, because
is this dual rim locks you put on this?
Yeah, it is.
A rim lock here and a rim lock over on the
So
other.
I ran these. You can with the Moose balls, it's customizable. The more you put in, it's like having a higher PSI. The less you put in, it's like a lower PSI. So I kind of did a middle ground on both, but just to be safe, it's good to have dual rim locks. So I have dual rim locks, and those are titanium rim locks from Warp 9. So like I was telling you, there's a lot on here, and yes, it added some weight, but I tried to, you know, I am weight conscious when I do these builds, and I tried to shave weight where I can. And overall, I don't think, I mean, you can weigh this bike. I don't think it's anything, you know, excessively heavy, even though it has, you know, lots of stuff on it, but.
Sweet. Spinning it around here.
Spin it around here. And let's start right here real quick. So this is the IMS 2.9 gallon tank, and we converted this to a carb, and there's actually only 2 tanks that you can buy for a carb GasGas. One is the MX tank, which we have, that will be a part of this bike. So whoever wins it will have that MX tank as well. But that's only 1.9 gallons, so barely 2 gallons, I think, which isn't going to cut it for most trail rides. This is the only other tank you can buy for a carb GasGas, and it's 2.9 gallons. Up here, I hate when I have the screw type, you know, gas caps. I hate having to deal with that.
The vent hose.
The vent hose, because, you know, typically it's hooked here, or it's down here, and it makes loosening it a lot harder. So what I did is I tapped a vent into the tank here and ran the vent hose down. It's got a one-way valve there.
Oh, nice.
So, you know, fuel or air can get in, but fuel can't get out. It's not gonna splash around. Right here, we have a Trail Tech hour meter. So if you go through here, you see 0.7 hours on this bike. And it also has a tachometer and max RPM and a clock. So use this.
The clock's even about the right time.
Use this pretty slick mount that mounts to the frame there, and then
this is where the oil reservoir used to be.
You can barely see it.
So you plug that basically.
Yep, it's a 3D printed plug from a company called 2Ride, so you can eliminate that oil filler spout. Then let's move down here.
These are so cool. This is a cool, this isn't stock. This is
No, that's
fashion.
That's custom. So a lot of this stuff, you know, as you're doing these builds and making these unique bikes, there's stuff that you have to make work, and you know, custom things you have to kind of figure out, and that's one of them. Because right here was mounted on the TPI bikes, the voltage regulator box.
Yeah.
And so I removed that in part of the carb conversion. So as we move down, have some of this carbon fiber. It's made by a company called Tecmo. And then a big part of this build, and we'll get into this, you know, a little bit more here, but was a carb conversion, and we're running the Bilotron 38 carb, which I personally haven't tried yet, but heard a lot of cool things. They were able to do that in that blackout, all black anodized, which is cool. Have the V-Force 4 reeds in there. And then this here is a chain guide that's made by Recluse, and it actually has, underneath here, you can't see it, but a Recluse billet slave cylinder.
That's awesome.
And then this is just a guard, and typically that's like a gold color, but again, I had it anodized. So moving on to the sprocket, running the stock gearing on this bike, which is 1351. I think they work great for the XCs with this gearbox. This is a titanium counter sprocket bolt. And then the sprockets are from Dirt Tricks. And then this is a custom piece. Dirt Tricks, if you look at here, they make this chromatic sprocket, which looks really cool. And they were able to get me one of these countershaft dome sprockets in that same chromatic. And they're gonna be doing a special edition run of those, or a limited edition, and have those probably available soon, but looks really good. I'm running a DID chain. It's a sealed X-ring chain, but I just wanted, you know, a gold chain on this bike. Bulletproof Designs protection, BRP chain guide. These things are beefy, solid, and supposedly frictionless. Then on the rear axle, I have these Works Connection chain adjuster. What are they called? The chain adjuster pieces here. And you can, they make it really easy to measure, you know, distances with these little tabs there. So, and they look good with
it's a cool piece. It's like, there's a lot of like little red pieces that you've done. You've even painted the master link.
So what I do with that, just
tying it together in different places.
People are probably wondering what I started doing, because the master link clips, I wouldn't check them as often as I probably should. And so what I started doing is, this is security check paint. And a lot of times they'll come stock, like on the KTMs, there will be like security check paint on some of the bolts, like that countershaft sprocket bolt. And so what I did is I get this paint and I coat it over the master link. And what that does, two things. One, it lets me check it really quickly visually, you know, whether you're out on a ride or in your shop, that, hey, my master link's still there. If I see red, I know my master link's still there. The other thing it does is, when the paint dries and hardens, it almost seals the master link on there. You can still remove it, you know, pretty easy. You just kind of chip the paint off with a screwdriver, but it's a system that's worked.
It's almost like Loctite for the master link.
Pretty much like that. So it's a system that's worked for me. And anyway, so I did that. I did that on all my bikes. Like we talked about, even down to the little things. I mean, everything
you were
was
mentioning
changed.
even like bolts. Like,
yes.
You had some spots where you swapped out bolts just so that it would look a little bit better.
Well, every bolt on this bike has been swapped out. So most of them are these, it's from Spec Bolt. It's called a Nickelworks bolt. And it's just a really good looking bolt that has a special coating, kind of more rust resistant. They look awesome. They kind of have the titanium look. And then there's some spots where I couldn't get those nickelwork bolts, and so I used actual titanium. But even down this kickstand foot pad is oversized. So, you know, sometimes you have that small one, it sinks down in the mud. And so that's an oversized pad. But, you know, everything down to that is pretty much gone over. Up here really quick, I don't think let's pop this off because I didn't forget the air filter. So running a funnel web filter, you know, they work awesome. The thing I found with those is because there's more surface area, I tend to clean them less, it seems like. You know, I haven't noticed any performance gains from them at all, like some claim, but I just noticed that I usually have to clean them less. It lasts a little bit longer. Up here on the seat, we haven't gone over this. This is a custom seat made by a company, SKDA. It has this wax canvas on it. I saw it and I was like, I gotta have that seat cover because it just gives it, you know, that rustic iron horse look.
Yeah. And it's like a saddle.
Exactly.
It looks like a saddle.
That's what it reminded me of, and that's why I was like, I gotta have that seat cover. So they were able to get that to me. This here, the saddle strap, that's actually what he calls them, is made by Off Grid Syndicate. He makes some really cool stuff. That's handmade. He's up in Idaho. And
I've tried his bar ends before.
His bar ends are great.
In fact, I've got them on the bike outside.
Yeah, his bar ends are great. His saddle straps are even better. He makes front and rear grabber handles, and they're made out of really high quality leather, and they last forever.
Yeah, that's the nicest saddle strap I've ever seen.
Yeah,
or grab strap.
It's awesome.
That feels like it. That's amazing.
You know, there's little things that I'm kind of seeing pop out here, like the shifter tip there. That's the Husqvarna Power Parts tip actually, and then I had to anodize that color. It's just a little bit wider and beefier, so you're probably not gonna smash that one.
Are we ready to pull the tank and talk?
Yeah,
about
let's pull the tank because I think the other components that we need to talk about are kind of hiding under there.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything.
Okay, we'll pull the tank real quick. Okay, so we just pulled the tank, which is awesome because now we can see the head. We can see this beautiful Electron or the Bilotron carburetor in here. So let's talk about what's under here.
All right, let's start with the frame because that was another big component of this build. So took bought the bike, brand new, came home, and within 12 hours I had it stripped down to the frame, and took this frame down to a local company that it looks brown. It looks like they, you know, powder coated a brown color, but if you look really close, you can see the heat welds and stuff and the detail on the frame. And that's because what they did is they stripped the red powder coat and then they treated the steel with some kind of chemical that brought that rustic brown out. And then it's actually just a clear Cerakote over the top of the raw steel frame. So there's actually no brown coloring at all on it. That's just the natural frame as it was treated with, you know, whatever chemical they treated it with. And it turned out absolutely, you know, awesome. Goes great with the kind of rustic feel that I was going for. Let's talk about the radiators because we brought that up. So yeah, these are the radiators off the new generation KTMs. So the 23 XC and SX models. And the reason I use these is because, as you know, a big problem with this generation is the power valve puncture. Because
these came out
straight.
And then you could pinch the hose.
Right there on that bolt. And so by going to these, KTM finally made this elbow.
They were listening.
Finally go up on an angle to go up and over this power valve and totally solves that problem. Why they didn't do that, you know, the problem
years ago.
It's been an issue since the 19XC models. All they had to do was this. And they finally did, you know, on this new generation. So I stole these and it works perfect. Again, had to kind of come up because of that with some custom Samco hoses to make it all work, but it worked out great. This here is another piece off the 23. I'm just kind of a neat freak and, you know, almost OCD in a way with my builds. I like everything as far as wiring, clean and neat. I feel like you run into less problems when you do, you know, have everything run like that. And so this is just a wire organizer that keeps everything, you know.
I just noticed you can see some
tighter.
remnants of the GasGas red in here.
Yep. So
that's actually pretty cool.
So, you know, deep down inside, it's still,
you can still see it's a
still
GasGas.
a red GasGas. There's some parts of the frame, you know, internally that he just couldn't, you know, get to the stripper in all the way and get it totally out. But for the most part, anything on
yeah, you
the
can't
outside,
see that unless you pull the bike apart, the
yeah,
tank
absolutely.
off.
So, you know, this bike was converted, and we'll probably do a whole video on the actual conversion process, but
Converted from TPI to carb.
yeah, converted from TPI to a carb.
Which entails a lot of cost and like 25, 30 different parts, right?
Exactly. It's a huge part of this build. Probably, you know, a good $2,000 worth of the cost was just in the conversion. So it's an expensive conversion. And a lot of people might ask, you know, why would you do that? I have my reasons, but for the most part, we did it just to make this bike as unique as possible.
Yeah.
Because the KTM owned GasGas line never had a carbed 300 model. And so this is kind of a unicorn in that sense. This is a two-stroke performance medium compression head. I was going to say high compression head, but it's actually not a high compression head, just a medium compression head. And then this is a cylinder off a 2019 KTM 300XC. All the other parts used to convert it to a carb, I took from a 2019 KTM 300XC. That includes the wiring harness. So there's so much to the conversion, and we'll explain all that in detail, but the wiring harness is off the carb bike, and back here kind of ran it all using the 19 300XC battery box. The battery I upgraded to the anti-gravity 8-cell battery, which is the best battery that I've found. They have, you know, the restart battery as well. That's a great battery, but this 8-cell is just tons of cold cranking amps and lots of capacity and fires the bike right up.
This is so clean with the terminals too.
Yeah, I mean, again, a lot of it's probably overboard, but I liked everything clean and neat and reinforced, and, you know, is to prevent as many problems as possible going down the road. So, I mean, there's just so much. I mean, every bolt, all these bolts here on the XE gear Mako 360 mount are titanium. That's 12 bolts there, 12 M8 by 20 bolts. So that actually saves quite a bit of weight. You know, more custom pieces. That actually is a Tusk steering stem bolt that I had anodized. I'm trying to think. There's probably stuff that I'm missing, but I mean, we've covered a lot of it. Oh, here's another part that's from Off-Grid Syndicate that I like. These steering stop adjustable bolts that he sells. It's just a kind of a grub screw that you can adjust. And because I was running, you know, different things, I could adjust them accordingly to make sure, you know, nothing was going to hit. So those are nice bolts to have.
Cool, I like that. Awesome. Okay.
But super happy with how it turned out. You know, like we were saying, it's an expensive bike, probably the most expensive bike that you'll ever buy. And we blew past the budget.
Yeah.
But I think
just in the cost, and we didn't even have to pay retail costs on this. There's over 25,000
Yeah,
in this bike. Doesn't include your labor. If you, what would you, if somebody said, "Will you do this for me?" What would you, or would you even charge? Like,
I don't even know how many hours I have into this bike, like countless hours, and trying to find products and research products. I would say it'd probably take $5,000 to have me build a bike like this. I mean, just because there's so much that went into it. So, I mean, if you factor in labor, the cost of parts at full retail and everything, this is well over a $30,000 bike.
Yeah,
So.
easily. I figured it's, if you had to pay retailer for everything and then pay you $5,000, I think you'd be between $32,000 and $35,000 to do something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, I'd like to, give a big thank you to all the companies that were willing to help out in whatever way, and thank you, because without you and those companies, this wouldn't have been possible. And this was an absolute dream for me, just to have a blank canvas and kind of build whatever I wanted and not worry so much about cost. And I'm super pumped for whoever wins this bike. I am so jealous because I want to ride this thing. Most of the bikes I build are for me and I get to ride them afterwards. This one, I'm gonna have, we'll give it away to whoever, and then whoever wins it is gonna have to tell me how this bike is, because I know it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
The thing that I'm most jealous about is that suspension. So I want feedback from whoever wins it on how that works out.
Well, thank you so much. We'll do another video just kind of highlighting the exact, the process that you took to go to the carb conversion. But the last thing I would say about this, I'll just see if I can flip the camera around here, is this is an amazing project. And I knew Tyler was pretty partial to this bike, because we actually did a handoff on this thing at 5 in the morning one day off the freeway. And he said something to me, we've ridden a lot, and he said something to me I've never heard come out of his mouth. I was we were kind of putting the bike in the truck and everything, and he said, "Hey, be careful with that." And I was like, it just hit me hard, because I'm like, we've been in nasty situations, we've flipped bikes, we've broken bikes. I've never heard him say, "Hey, be careful with that." And that just goes to show how much love and effort he put into this thing, and it couldn't have turned out better, and I'm just excited for whoever wins it. So thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah,
and we'll wrap this one up, and then we'll do another one that will come out later about the carb conversion. So thanks everybody, and that's the Iron Horse. Leave a single track.